Greetings again and welcome to Introduction to Astrology. I'm your host, the professor. I have my Starbucks in hand, as you can see, and I also have a shout out to give to John Lund in Sandpoint, Idaho. Thank you so much, John, for your generous donation to the YouTube channel. And I also wanted to point viewers to his program, which is called Modern Masters, and it can be found online at modernmasters.org. It's a truly revolutionary system of success based on a gaming platform, which is very, very exciting. So thank you, John, for your support and viewership. So the next step that I wanted to take in our education here is the planetary rulerships and understanding the planetary rulerships. And this really points to astrology as a system. And the first thing I'm going to say is, don't be intimidated by this chart. I know it looks very intimidating. What I wanted to illustrate simply with this chart is that nothing arbitrary exists about astrology. It is a very dynamic, purposeful system, okay? And so, but it's very important to understand also that there's a correspondence between the planets and the signs in astrology. Now, remember on our last episode, we talked about planets, signs, houses, and aspects. For right now, we're going to leave the houses and the aspects out of it completely, and we're just going to look at the signs and the planetary rulerships. Now, you might be asking yourself, what does rulership mean? Well, it's natural correspondence with a planet. The sign's natural correspondence with a planet. That is its strongest placement in that particular sign as it's moving through the zodiac. For instance, we look here at the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries, cardinal fire, and you'll notice over here that the planetary rulership is Mars, okay? So as the first sign of the zodiac, it's initiating, right? It's right at the front, and because of that, it has this initiating energy, cardinal energy, beginning the spring season, okay? And often this was a good time for people to go to war. All right, so Mars, of course, is the planet of war. And so Mars rules Aries, the sign Aries. Now, if we go across, you'll notice on the opposite end we have Libra, which is ruled by Venus. If you really want to understand the dynamism of opposites in the zodiac, look at how they oppose each other on the wheel. Character of the ruling planet of the sign on one side will be opposite of the character of the ruling planet on the other side. So right over here we have Mars ruling Aries. On this side we have Venus, which rules Libra, okay? And they oppose each other. This could be characterized as war. This could be characterized as peace, okay? Does that make sense? All right, so as we go around the entire zodiac, you will see this pattern as well. Here is Taurus. Now notice that Taurus is fixed Earth and is ruled by Venus as well. Each of the classical astrological planets have feminine and masculine sides or rulerships, okay? So notice that Taurus is the feminine part of Venus, whereas Libra is the masculine part of Venus, all right? And remember that the elements determine the gender. So we have Earth, which is feminine, and we have air, which is masculine, okay? All right, so you go around the entire zodiac that way, okay? We've got, of course, Gemini, which is the masculine rulership of Mercury, and it's opposed by Jupiter, masculine rulership of Sagittarius. Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, and then the sun in Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. We have over here, opposing Leo, masculine rulership of Saturn, and also the feminine rulership opposing Cancer here in Capricorn. All right. Again, I'm not trying to confuse you. I don't want to intimidate you, but I want to point out very simply that astrology is a system, and it's a system that's really truly an interplay of opposites. And this is not a foreign idea. The fact is, if we look at most of our mythology, go to the tree in the garden in Genesis. You know, we're talking about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Well, what is that really? It really is the tree of the opposites of life, right? When we step into this earthly world, we are confronted with opposites. Light and dark, masculine and feminine, cold and hot. I mean, everywhere we're confronted with opposites. And again, going back to some of the earlier lessons that talk about the law of vibration and the law of polarity, all of those kinds of things, it's easy to understand mostly through that understanding and interplay of opposites. Okay, so real quickly we kind of go around the zodiac here. Virgo, again, this is the feminine rulership of Mercury. We talked a little bit about Libra. Here we have the feminine rulership of Mars in Scorpio, okay, which is fixed water. But also you'll notice here that Mars is also ruled by Pluto. In modern times, what had occurred was that we were discovering new planets. And this is where natal astrology, and that's what we're studying, is natal astrology, intersects with mundane astrology, which means when a planet is discovered, the character of the times in which we live gets attached to the keywords for that particular planet. For instance, Pluto was discovered around the Great Depression, was discovered around the nuclear age, and so the character of it was that of radical transformation, going from one extreme to the next, taking a little amount of energy and liberating a tremendous amount of energy from that small origin. And so Pluto was gifted to the sign Scorpio, which has to do with transformation. It's also considered to be a transcendental planet. There are 3 transcendental signs, which you call the transcendental signs. These signs, for lack of a better term, seem to be the most psychic, okay, of the zodiac. And so Scorpio is that way by virtue of its depth. Over here we have Uranus, which rules Aquarius, okay, and Aquarius is the forward thinker, the one who sees into the future in terms of inventions, in terms of progress. And we also have here Neptune, which rules Pisces as a transcendental, which has to do with the deep unconscious and the wisdom of the deep unconscious coming to the surface through dream, through inspiration, okay? And so these 3 are considered to be the psychic signs of the zodiac, or the classical psychic signs of the zodiac, because the rulerships they're ruled by transcendental planets as well as the classical planets. So to skip over to here, if we look at Saturn, we have this classical rulership in Aquarius as the masculine ruler of Aquarius, and also Neptune as well, Jupiter for Pisces, okay? And so its feminine rulership would be in Pisces, masculine rulership would be in Sagittarius, as we discussed earlier. All right. This can be best understood through astrology hiding in plain sight. Our days of the week, for instance, okay? Sunday is the day of the sun. Moon day is the day of the moon. And those can kind of be considered a pair because the sun is just masculine energy, rules Leo, and then Cancer is feminine energy and is ruled by the moon. And they don't have, the moon doesn't, for instance, have a masculine rulership. The sun doesn't have, or Leo doesn't have, a feminine rulership. So they're considered a pair. And at the end of the week, of course, we have Saturn's day. Now look at the sun and the moon and how they're positioned here, and then the rulerships on the opposite end are opposing, which are opposite in their character, and Saturn rules those signs, just like sun and the moon, Sunday and Monday come at the beginning of the week, and then Saturday comes at the end of the week. All right? So we move beyond that. Tuesday, which is the day of Mars, we go back of Saturday, and we find Friday, which is the day of Venus. The correspondence is Venus. Okay? So the day of Mars is opposed to, like in the zodiac, Aries and Libra, or Taurus and Scorpio. All right? And we keep moving forward. So Wednesday would be the day of Mercury, Thursday is the day of Jupiter, and Mercury and Jupiter are opposites in their character. So working back outside, from the outsides of the week inward, you find those classical planetary rulerships and their opposing characters. All right? Again, I want to make sure and emphasize that this is simply a chart. This is a very beginning. And I wanted to show you that this system of astrology truly is a system that has no arbitrary components, and that there is a correspondence between the planets and the signs and their natural and strong placements in those signs. And so when you see Mars in Aries, that's a strong placement for an athlete or a warrior. If you see Mercury in Gemini, that's a very, very bright person, smart person, or a thinker, okay? And when you see those particular placements, understand that that's a strong placement. Now, in later episodes, we'll get into more nuances, what are called the dignities of the planets, all right? There's not just dignity, which is the natural rulership. These are the dignities, okay, of the planets, their natural placement. But there's also an extreme placement, which is called exaltation, which is extremely positive. There's the detriment. So that's when a ruling planet is in the opposite sign. So if Mars falls into Libra, it's considered to be in detriment. And then fall, which is an extremely weak placement for that particular planet. Okay, we're not going to get too far into that right now. I just wanted to emphasize this chart, understanding astrology as a system. And the next few set of episodes, we're going to be going into the planets in detail. And then following that, we'll be going into the signs themselves. Thanks again for your viewership, and be the change you wish to see in the world.